Hello, I'm NBG and welcome to the channel. In today's video, I kind of just wanted to go around a little bit more of my final decisions, I guess, which honestly, they're still relatively fluid, but I have a much better idea of what I'm going to main in Dragonflight and what I'm going to alt in Dragonflight, and then more importantly for anybody watching this video and my channel, kind of how I'm setting up my professions and my general game plan about that. I will definitely probably make a little bit more in-depth game plan about that, but that's kind of a fluid situation too. I know of multiple routes I could potentially go in terms of what I think is going to be best bang for my buck at the start of Dragonflight, and we'll go over that in a later video. This video is specifically going to talk about the classes that I'm going to main and alt, and a breakdown of kind of where my professions are going to be and why. So without further ado, let's just jump right into it. For today's video, I'm just going to use some kind of random background footage of the updated Ultimate dungeon. I ran through it on quite a few characters, just trying to feel things out in dungeons and whatnot, because I haven't hardly played Shadowlands since basically the beginning of it, so I haven't been doing Mythic Pluses or anything like that in literally forever. Last time I even ran dungeons was like at the beginning of Shadowlands. Like, I haven't done anything, so I've kind of just been jumping onto some characters just to see them in like a dungeon atmosphere. I know it's not exactly hard content. This dungeon's quite easy. That's not what it's about. It's just how do they feel in AoE packs? How are they feeling on bosses? Things of that nature. Just getting out there and playing a little bit. And I was kind of using that to help me kind of decide what I wanted to play. I had a general idea, but again, it's really just more playtime. And then I have a bunch of characters that are poorly geared, like really poorly geared, to wear the catch-up gear, whether it's from the dungeon or from the pre-patch event, happens to be helpful for them. So anyway, let's just go ahead and get started. So coming into the pre-patch, I had a strong idea of what my main was going to be. That did fluctuate for a second, but I think I'm back and firmly on it. And for me, my main is going to be Warrior. Now, the reason my Warrior is my main is strictly because it's always been my main, pretty much. I have almost always mained Warrior. I love Warrior. I prefer arms, but messing around on the beta, I thought like the Fury, some of the specs that I tried, specifically the Annihilator spec, and having the increased bleed damage and the bleed from Bloodlust and or Bloodthirst, excuse me, and all of that kind of stuff just felt extremely good. It was fast and fluid, just like you expect Fury Warrior to be, but even more buttons to push, right? Like more meaningful buttons, meaning having Dragon's Roar, having Odin's Fury, having Recklessness, and yeah, it's just, it feels good having a lot of buttons to roll through in terms of like meaningful damage buttons. Obviously, it's an extremely easy class to play in terms of like AoE. You just hit Whirlwind every 2 to 4 casts, depending on your spec, more than likely 4. It's just so easy to play, and I think most people can play it in their sleep, but I definitely can, just given how long I've played Warrior. I was slightly down on that choice for the fact that I have been playing it for so long. I feel like I've been Fury Warrior as my main for so long, and I find that a little bit frustrating, to be honest, and that makes me want to change things up a bit. But I know no matter what, at the end of the day, I'm going to play Warrior, so it's definitely there. It's probably the one, almost 100%. It's the one I'm going to level first up to 70. It's the one I'm going to get rolling on first, particularly because of how much I enjoy PvP. It's probably the one I focus on primarily. Now, I'm also true to myself, and I understand that I'm probably darn near going to play everything at some point anyway. I just want to have a better idea of my main couple of classes at the start, and things are allowed to fluctuate, right? If I feel like playing something else, whatever, I have a couple that are sneaking up and down in terms of my like order of where I would put them. It's really, really hard. I have a terrible time sticking to one or two or three things. I've always had that issue. But right now, main warrior. As you can already see here, my main alt, and that's how I'm going to put it, is main alt, is going to be monk. Monk sort of came out of nowhere for me. I have never really played monk very much. I have talked about it, and I have talked about how every time I play it, it just feels so darn good. I love its mastery, as in, I love like not ever using the same button twice in a row. You know, it's that feng shui, you know, back and forth, you know, kind of just weaving, you know, like it just feels good to play. I also like, for the same reason as warrior, if they have multiple big buttons to hit that feel good, whether it's rising sun kick or, you know, your flurry punch thing, whatever the hell that's called. I can't think of it at the moment. Or the thunder punch or the whirling dragon punch. You know, having all of those, like, kind of, they all feel like main abilities. And then when you're spec'd and you kind of have your blackout kick buff, like, honestly, blackout kick can absolutely wreck, having it hit, you know, 2 to 3 times and on multiple targets. Like, that ends up feeling good even. So playing it in the beta at 70 and then playing it again in pre-patch, honestly, I have this issue with aesthetic of not liking punching and kicking, to be honest, and I'd much prefer to like hit with a big old meaty weapon or even smaller weapons. I like hitting with weapons, so I have this issue with monk, but that is really my only issue with monk, and I cannot let that hold me back from enjoying the class. I love its burst, I love how it plays, it has the movement I want, it has good utility, it has the burst I want in PvP. I mean, there's not much better, especially as a melee DPS. Like, they're gonna be absurd. I mean, they're gonna be a bit squishy. They're gonna die relatively easy once you catch them in a stun. But in general, if they're able to pick somebody and burst, they're probably gonna win that fight. Like, their burst damage is absurd. No idea, to be honest, if I will be good on one specifically in PvP, but I can't let that deter me either. I gotta just play what feels good, and if I'm bad at it, you know, in comparison to others, I just need to keep playing it and get better. I'm not too worried about that. As much as I know I can just play warrior at a high level, I don't feel the same way about monk. However, monk thumps in dungeons or like Mythic Plus. Like, monk really thumps in there. It feels good. Your damage numbers are absurd. Obviously, it feels good to do damage, especially when you're a DPS, right? Like, it feels really good. So, for me, I think for the first time ever, it's definitely my least played class, but it's moving up to main alt, at least at the start. Again, that could change, but monk feels too good for me not to play. After that, I have multiple other alts, and these are basically along the same lines as the first two. They're classes, they're things that just felt too good not to play. I talked about monk. I'm having a hard time whether my main alt is monk or shaman. And the reason is I really like enhancement. I really like the build, specifically like the Alpha Wolf, like physical based build, mostly because that's probably what I would play in PvP, Storm Strike spam. Storm Strike, one of my favorite abilities. I love what monk brings. That to me feels really good to play, and it feels a little bit more natural for me to play than other things. Why that is, I don't know. It just feels natural for me to play, and it feels good. I worry about it on the PvP side. I don't think Enhancement Shaman is necessarily going to be that great in 3v3. I don't feel, even though I think it'll do okay in like 3v3, I don't know if it's going to do good in solo. Like, in terms of like breaking into the higher bracket. I don't know if it's really that good of a solo shuffle class. I think it's going to be like one of the premier, like, kill that. That's the thing that has the least amount of defensives, kill that. I'm worried about it in that sense. That kind of brings it down. But in terms of PvE, it feels amazing. I love the aesthetic of it. I love just what it brings with Storm Strike and weaving in casting abilities, and a ton of them at that. I love constantly having your dogs up. Again, Shaman feels really good. It is really hard to put Monk above Shaman because of just how much I enjoy Shaman right now. And my fourth, which is one that could change right now, would go to Hunter. And the big reason why it's fourth is just BM Hunter. I'm definitely not survival. I've usually played MM. I haven't really played BM in forever, but BM Hunter feels good, right? It's not sexy, it's super easy, but that's kind of why I like it. It is extremely easy to play, but it feels rewarding and it feels good to play it, just given how easy it is to pump out some damage. Yeah, it is what it is, right? I think we all know what BM Hunter is. It's not a sexy pick, it does feel good, right? I could see myself getting bored of it relatively easy, specifically because I don't like ranged that much, but it is definitely up there. The one that you could argue might jump into that spot might be Death Knight, just given that I think, I do think, specifically on the Mythic Plus front, I think Unholy is going to be insane, but I think Frost is going to be good too, and in PvP, you know, I like high survivability, and I like Unga Bunga playstyle. You know, I like to just, like, your job is to train a target, you know, land CC at good times and capitalize. Like, I think Frost is actually going to be really good in PvP in general. So that one's sneaking up there for me as well. But right now, that's kind of my mains. Those are my alts. Where that brings us next is the more important part for all of you, and that's kind of discussing my professions and my plans with them, and kind of what's going to change and why it looks the way it does, and so on and so forth. So let's jump right into that and talk about my mains and alts, kind of what they're going to be and why. My warrior is jewel crafting and mining. The reason for that is it's always been jewel crafting and mining, so I'm not going to change it. It's always been jewel crafting and mining. I'm not looking to change it just to change it. I would prefer technically for it to be something else, but it's always been my jewel crafter. I'm not a big person on having let's say jewel crafting and blacksmithing or something. Like I usually like, if I'm, especially if I'm going to play a character a lot, like I'm going to be on my warrior a lot. If everything goes the way I have it written down, I'm going to be playing it the most. I also want to have mining on it, right? I want to be able to find my own resources. It feels bad to play something that has like jewel crafting and mining, or like jewel crafting and blacksmithing, and then you're running by a bunch of mines in the world because you play it a lot. To me, that feels terrible. I want to have mining on there. That's going to stay that way. Now, this is where things could be shaken up, in particular with my launch plan, especially in the first couple days to first week. But if I'm going to be playing another class a lot, I decided, because of how highly I rank where dual gathering is going to be at the profession, I want the next class I play like the most to be mining and herbalism, just to be a flat out, I get on this character to gather. There's a chance I could get on that character within that first 24 to 48 hours and sit on it for a couple days and just mine and herb like crazy and make money that way. That's one of my options, but I want a character that's solely focused on mining and herbalism, that does not have to be a druid anymore. You could argue things like Evoker, would be a great pick for that with their perception. You could also use something like either one of the Taurens, like the Torrent High Mountain or whatever, for the better mining and herbing. So yeah, I have to have my main alt do that. I don't need it to be something else, so it's just gonna be, because that's gonna be my main alt right now. I'm gonna be switching it up, and I'm gonna go mining and herbalism on my monk. My hunter. My shaman is... I made a new one because I didn't like my name and I didn't like my race, so I leveled a new one during this event because it's super easy. Got that all up and going. And that's always been my leatherworker. So it's going to be my leatherworker and Skinner. Because again, I don't want to play something a lot and not like have the gathering profession that goes with it. I hate doing that for the most part. Unless it's something I just don't play. So that's going to be leatherworking and skinning for me. Pretty self-explanatory, not just because I do think leatherworking is going to be very, very good. So I'm definitely going to have it. After that, my hunter. I am, and we'll see later, but there's some specific professions I'm definitely going to have 2 of, if not more, and that's, one of those is inscription. So my hunter is going to be my main scribe, and again, I'm going to roll herbalism because it's an alt, and I'm going to play it a lot, so I want it to be able to gather its own things. I'm going to do an inscription there, and most of these professions, as you've seen from my other profession videos where I kind of discuss my plan, you should already know my plan for the majority of these. You can look at those videos. I have secondary plans for a couple of these on what I want to do. That way, just because I think those professions are going to be so good that I want to take advantage of them. Inscription's one of them. So that's going to be my main scribe. Also going to have herbalism on there. This now brings us to the others, I would like to call them. The others for me are just kind of my other, not necessarily the classes I'm going to play, but it's basically just where my professions either are already or just what I want to do. Death Knight, high chance I play it. It is going to be my jewel crafter and engineer, but as you notice, it's not something I'm going to play an absolute ton of, more than likely, so I have double of like actual crafting professions. It's going to be my secondary jewel crafter and my only engineer. Mage, another class there's a chance I play a lot, and it feels good to have tailoring and enchanting on the same thing. That's going to be my tailor and enchanter, pretty self-explanatory. Tailoring and enchanting is going to be a great combo, kind of like dual gathering. It's going to be a great combo if you just want to make extra money. Both of them have 2 really good specs just as like a secondary income. I don't want to think much about it kind of stuff. Tailoring and enchanting is going to be a fabulous combo, and that's going to be on my mage because I might play it. For my paladin's always had blacksmithing and inscription of all things. That's the only reason why that combo is like that, because it in Shadowlands is my main scribe currently, and it is my only blacksmith. I'm not going to change those over. It's going to be my main blacksmith in... I'm definitely not going to play paladin. It's probably the one I'm lowest on, but it's definitely going to be my main blacksmith, and it's going to be my secondary scribe because it already is one, so not going to change it. And then finally for me is going to be rogue, and my rogue has always been my alchemist, so I'm going to keep it alchemy and herbalism, and that will essentially cover all of the professions I really care about and kind of my general setup of what I have and why. Again, if you're interested in seeing and knowing, like, well, how are you speccing a few of these, you can look at those videos. I will probably have a link either right here or at the end to those videos in particular, so you can go kind of see the direction I'm going to go, at least on my mains of those professions. And there you have it. I have covered my mains and my alts, and more importantly, kind of where my professions are sitting on all my characters, and my general plan for my, for my account and all the different characters I have on kind of what I'm going to do on what. It kind of dictates the classes I'm going to get to Valdrakken ASAP to do work orders. I'll touch on a couple things. I'll probably make another video about it for anybody who doesn't see it here, but doing those work orders, or more specifically making fresh crafts on the different professions, gives experience. So by me, I can get all these characters into Valdrakken and just be doing work orders like every single day or every couple of days on them, and make sure that they're crafting new things that they haven't crafted before, and they will gain Udo's amounts of experience. Specifically, I think if you're probably dual crafting on something, you might not even have to go level at all. So while I am getting them rested, I will be doing that to kind of side level them. something else I will point out real quick is, at least on the US realm right now, WoW tokens are lower than I've seen them in like 2 months, if not longer. Last time I checked, they were down to like 208. I've kind of always thought this was going to be the case, but especially in that last week or so, prior to the expansion coming out, I think is going to be might be the lowest prices we see for quite some time. It's probably a good idea for you guys, if you haven't already stocked up on tokens like I have, to stock up, early this next week, maybe this weekend, maybe even right now, maybe this coming into that. Maybe people will come in slightly early for things to be a little bit less expensive, and take part in some of the pre-patch. So right around now, over the next couple days, something to keep an eye on. Might be the lowest prices we see in some time. Anyway, with that, I do have a couple more classes I definitely need to play more, mess around with, see if for some reason they just scream out to me that I need to play them. In particular, I've always thought about Warlock, but Warlock's always felt like a class, like if I don't main it and play it mostly, I will never be good enough, specifically on the PvP front, just because I'm not good at their utility. Like, I'm not good with their movement in particular, whether it's teleporting and gating and stuff. I hate it, I don't like it, it's clunky, I've never been good at it, and that's always kept me away from playing it, but I could use it in like Mythic Plus or something. So I felt like messing around with something like that. And another one I felt like I really need to check out is Shadow Priest. I think I need to mess with a little bit, but typically I'm not going to play casters too much, so I'm not too worried about it. I also kind of thought, like, back in BFA, other than my warrior, my next main was by far my elemental shaman at the time. So I do think I do kind of like where elemental shaman is at. Maybe not necessarily in PvP for the most part, but I like elemental shaman, and that's kind of the other reason why shaman is on my main 4, is because I know that if for some reason I'm not feeling enhanced, or if I just really feel like playing elemental, that is there for me, as it used to be pretty much my main for the most part. But yeah, other than that, for right now, it's just getting the last little things I want, getting some upgrades on characters that need it, messing around with some specs, considering what I want to do, running the dungeon because I have nothing else to do, on alts, mostly just to kind of feel out, get a little bit more sense of how they play. But I do think that at least my top 3, meaning warrior, monk, and shaman, are pretty set. The last one might change, but where I'm putting my professions and all that kind of stuff, that is set in stone. I know how I'm doing that. I know how I'm going to attack that. It's just a matter of what I play in terms of like the top classes. I'm hoping that this expansion is as good as I'm expecting. My hopium is through the roof, to be honest. I'm trying not to spread it to others, just because it's Blizzard, right? I would like them to prove it to me first, but man, they got me. They've hooked me in. I'm ecstatic, and I hope you guys are too. But with that, I'm also really hoping that I can play alts, whether it's through primarily PvP or PvE as well, or whatever the case may be. I'm hoping I can play alts as much as I typically would, because then I'll be in heaven. It'll feel really, really good if I can just play everything and feel like I'm not wasting time by not being on my main. So anyway, more videos to come. I will eventually break down my launch plans. Yeah, so keep a lookout for that. If you like what you see here, please comment, please like, please subscribe if you haven't already. Making that push for 1,000 subscribers. I definitely don't think I'll get there before the launch of the game. We're at about 600 right now, which I'm very thankful of, but I'm hoping I can grow this community at the start of Dragonflight and really build on something here. If you have not joined the Discord, please do jump in there. I'm usually down in one of the voice channels. Hop in there, talk to me about stuff. I'm really eager to talk to everybody about what they're playing and how they feel about the expansion, profession questions, gold making questions, all of the sort. So again, with that, if you like what you see here, like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one.